Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Good Land, the land where everything is good, because what is better than hanging out with two best friends? My name is Norin, and I am one of those best friends.
And I am Michael. I'm the other best friend.
The other best friend. Real quick, I think I forgot it the past episode or so, but shout out to @CuscoSucks on Twitter for our wonderful intro. I don't think I say it enough. I don't say it as much as I should. Parker's doing great work. Thank you, Parker.
He is.
For the great work.
I love listening to the new things he's making. So
yeah, he's doing great. We're proud to show off his handiwork at the start of our show. Well, Michael, my dear friend, please tell me about your week. I guess past couple weeks. It's been like 2 weeks now.
Past 2 weeks, yeah, they have certainly been good. Not as crazy or as hectic as the previous weeks. I had an exam for one of my hard classes and did not do bad.
Hey, nice.
So that was a win for me. So it's been some pretty good weeks.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad your exam went well. I do not miss having to take exams. My past couple weeks have been pretty good. I've been putting in some work. I'm working on a brand new D&D show, a new campaign, start of a new campaign. A new podcast is going to come out with it. At some point, we keep kind of pushing back the start date. So eventually it'll happen, probably. But I've been putting in a lot of work for that. I don't want to spoil too much about it. But I've been working hard building the world that is encompassing it and getting things ready on that end. So that's been exciting. That's been a multi-week process. I've watched.
It certainly sounds exciting. So
yeah, I'm definitely excited for it. I've watched some movies. I've played some games like usual, and I've worked. It's summer now, so my parents, who are teachers, are now on summer vacation, which is good for them.
That's right.
My brother just got a job, so him and I are the ones who are kind of out of the house most now, which is a little bit of a switch to how it was before. But yeah, it's good. It's good.
Dang. Yeah, that's awesome. That's certainly exciting. I forget that your parents have the whole summer off. What do they like to do?
Well, you see, my mom usually almost kind of struggles with it a little bit because she's one of those people that likes to be moving and likes to be doing things. So all of a sudden, having 3 months where she doesn't need to do anything, it can get a little hectic for her. But she keeps herself busy. She's been meeting up with friends now that she can, and she's been helping my dad in the garden because my dad, that's what he's been doing this summer.
That's right. That was his hobby.
He's going all in on the gardening now that he's got the time to do it. He's also, I guess, at the middle school he works at, he's one of the heads of the garden club now, and I guess they're doing some summer meetups for the garden club. So he's been going and doing that. And then they've both been working out quite a bit too. My dad's lost a ton of weight, so he looks great now, and him and my mom are just keeping at it, working out and getting fit. So good for them. They're doing more than me. So
dang. Well, yeah, certainly summer vacations, gardening, all certified good.
All certified good.
All good.
And speaking of certified good, that's what we're here to talk about this week. We figure, certifying something good is something that we don't take lightly here in Goodland, and it's something that we like to celebrate as well. Goodland is a celebration of everything that we think is good, and so we thought, what better topic to discuss this week than stuff that we certify as good. So basically, we're going to chat about some things that we have seen or experienced recently that we've really enjoyed, or some things coming up that we're really excited about. Because there's a lot to be excited
Mhm.
about.
There certainly is. I love, there's just a lot of good in the world. Sometimes it's really easy to get stressed and think of all the bad in the world, but sometimes it's good just to kind of focus on, what's good, what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty easy to lose sight of the stuff that is worth talking about, the stuff that's worth, the stuff that makes you smile. It's pretty easy to lose track of that stuff because there's so much. I feel like people say that if you're doing something that people really enjoy, you can get like hundreds of good positive comments, but it's like the one negative one buried in there that comes out the loudest. And I think that's kind of true for most things. Like the loudest voices are often the most negative ones, and so it's easy to get swept up in that. It's easy to kind of lose sight of the good that we really enjoy. So that's kind of what we wanted to do with this episode, is make sure we don't lose sight on that stuff that really been enjoying. So I guess, Michael, what have you experienced recently that you've really enjoyed?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say the one thing that I'm taking a lot of joy and pride in is like the computer that I'm building. Because you and I initially talked about the concept of like getting new computers or building those computers like way at the start of this year.
Hmm.
And it's definitely been a process. Obviously, you have your computer, and even though you like were able to get one completely pre-built, like even that was something that took some time and investment into it. Um, and I'm trying to put mine together, and it's been such a process of figuring out what I want, what I need, getting all of those parts, and now finally everything's like all coming together. So hopefully by the end of this week I can like actually assemble this computer, and that is, oh, it feels so satisfying just reaching this point. It's like the finish line at one of our cross country meets.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're right. This has been a process for us. This PC journey that we have gone on. I totally remember like the beginning of this year saying like this is a thing that we're going to do by the end of the year. We're going to have good PCs, and it's something that we were really excited about. Something that we had been putting a lot of energy and like research and reading into. And so to finally see it kind of all come together, come to fruition is great. I went from knowing almost nothing about PCs and like what the little bits and bobs were and what all the little letters and numbers meant, to now being able to walk into a store and chat with the people about it on their level, which is pretty exciting because like not only is it something that we can use for fun and for work, but it's also like I feel like we've learned a lot on this journey too. Like our knowledge that we house inside our brain has expanded in a whole new field.
Yeah, it's, I mean, growing up, I played video games like on the console. Like that's the PlayStation was I did, and you had the Xbox growing up. We
Hmm.
had both differing systems, and we really enjoyed those. Those were great. And then we got to the point where we had some laptops and stuff, and it's nice being able to be to this point where like we've kind of taken everything that we've grown up with and really pushed it into like these new PCs, because yeah, it covers so much. I work from home, so I'm literally on a computer all the time. That's what I do. So being able to have something that's great for like work and also gaming, like being able to game with you is one of my favorite things to do. Like, it's just so nice going back to something that we did growing up. It's such a great way to get connected, you know?
Yeah, especially because like you said, we had differing consoles growing up, so we couldn't exactly. It was harder for us to game together without, we would have to be with each other physically and bust out a game that supported couch co-op, which we did quite a bit. I don't think I'll ever forget the countless hours that we spent messing around in like Halo Reach. Um,
We had so much fun doing that.
that
Like,
was that was the best. I still go back to that game from time to time. It's so much fun. And maybe a lot of it is the nostalgia that we had associated with it. But
mhm.
without couch co-op, like we didn't really have a way to game together growing up. So now that we've got to the point where we have PCs that that support that online environment that will allow us to cross that bridge and actually hang out digitally together, especially now that we don't live right around the corner from one another. I can't cross the canal and walk in through your back fence anymore. I have to.
Can walk into someone else's yard that way, not
Yeah, that's
mine.
true. Yeah, I might do it just for old time's sake and check in on whoever's there now. But it it's nice that now that we are further apart than we like ever have been. Um, it's cool that we can still feel connected like this now, thanks to this advance that we have made for ourselves.
Yeah, like this is just kind of like the vehicle for all of that. Like we could go on forever about the different games that you and I take joy in. Like there's just so much to be able to enjoy, out there. Like growing up, there was certainly like a handful of games growing up that were popular. Halo, that was one of them. That was like one of those foundational games. There was a handful that were foundational, and now I think it's gotten to the point, especially with computers being as popular as they are, really anyone can create a game. There are all these sorts of like indie small games, and even just trying out all of those or supporting people who build these programs in these games. Like I just love every part of it.
Yeah, one of the things that since I got my PC, I picked up Xbox Game Pass because I have an Xbox, um, and I was paying for Xbox Live on it, and especially now that I've started PC gaming, I wasn't using it as much, so I kind of felt I wasn't getting my money's worth out of it. But then I learned with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, you can get Xbox Live and the Game Pass subscription service and EA Play all for like roughly the same price that I was paying for just Xbox Live. So I switched over to Xbox Game Pass, and it is this library of games that you can download for free and play for as long as you're subscribed to the service. And there's like no limit on the playtime for the games. You just get these games for a small monthly price for the entire service. So it's like 15 a month, and I get a library of games as well as Xbox Live and EA Play, and I can just download a game that I want for free, jump in, try it out, and so I've got to experience a lot of games that I wouldn't have played otherwise because I maybe didn't want to spend a whole $60 just to test it out and see if I liked it. So it's really been awesome. It's been a great investment. This is not an advertisement. I just really like the service that much. I like it so much. I cannot
Yeah.
believe I was so foolish as to not that I didn't do it earlier. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I think anything that like lowers those barriers to entry is great. Like computers, it lowers so many barriers of entry. You can play virtually anything on computer. You can do so much. And with those play passes, like there's really so much that you can do. I mean, even Overwatch, like the game that you and I enjoy very much. Like they just today, you said that they just put live their crossplay, meaning that you could play on your Nintendo Switch and I could play on my computer and we could play together. It didn't used to be that way. There was always that strict divide, and that was, we kind of mentioned it earlier. I had PlayStation growing up and you had Xbox. Like there was no way that we could do anything together. But they're kind of breaking down those barriers as well.
Which is really cool to see because a lot of the history of video games has been built around like console wars. Like back in the day, it was like Sega and Nintendo were enemies for a while, and then like Nintendo and Sony when the PlayStation came out. Um,
Hmm.
and then obviously the console wars between Xbox and PlayStation have been going for a while now. More so propagated by the fans now than the companies. It used to be the companies in their marketing would directly attack one another. They've kind of stepped away from that. Um,
Yeah.
but one of the things that's really cool is seeing the companies themselves trying to stop those barriers. Like Phil Spencer from Xbox is getting like super buddy with Nintendo. Like they're just talking each other up, and there's a few Xbox exclusives that have come over to um, Nintendo Switch now, like Ori and the Blind Forest. Like those games used to be exclusive to Xbox, but they made that deal with Microsoft, and now they're there, and they're just trying to lower these barriers with all the games that are getting crossplay out now. So it's really cool to see the mindset shift from who is the best at gaming and shift into we are all gamers. I think that's a really cool direction, and I'm glad that we're heading in that direction.
Yeah, definitely good to be all inclusive. Remove those barriers to entry. All of that is good.
Um, so Michael, have you watched Loki?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This has been incredible. I knew immediately, like, I just like Loki as a character, so I was really excited for this because WandaVision was incredible.
Hmm.
Like that's gonna be very tough to beat, even by movies. Like that's gonna be tough to beat. And then Falcon and Winter Soldier was a pretty good stopgap. Not my favorite. I think especially going right after WandaVision, probably anything is gonna be difficult to beat that. So I was looking forward to Loki, even if I didn't expect it to be incredible. But I've just been blown away at how well they have done Loki so far.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. So for those of you, I mean, by the time that this comes out, it's probably going to go up tomorrow, which will be what, the 23rd of June. So
Yes,
the
that's episode 3,
so
right?
episode 3 will be out tomorrow. So episode 2 has been out for roughly a week, so I feel okay talking about it. Um, but the first two episodes have been fantastic. I'm totally with you that WandaVision was fantastic. I think they fumbled the
Hmm.
end just a bit, but the ride up to it was fantastic. And Falcon and Winter Soldier was really solid, like back to the roots of the MCU. Like it felt very classic, and
Yeah, it did.
that's what I liked about WandaVision was that it was stepping out of that comfort zone for the MCU. Like they were trying something new, which was very exciting. And I'm really liking Loki. When I watched the first episode of it, I was a little uncertain. Like I liked it, I
Yeah,
thought it was
there's a little
fun,
bit uncertainty.
but the like when they were describing like this is the sacred timeline and the Avengers could time travel because they were supposed to, and you can't time travel because you weren't supposed to. I was a little bit like, that's a
Who
little
writes
bit.
those rules?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, that seems kind of a cheap way to explain it all. Like just saying this is what's meant to be. And then I saw a couple people on Twitter be like, so does that just no one in the MCU gets to have free will? Is that just how it works? But then we hit episode 2 and Loki actually addresses those where I think he actually says so you don't have free will and he actually like addresses those direct concerns and then
Hmm.
it's starting to show itself like the timekeepers are maybe a little corrupt. Maybe they're not exactly like the beings of benevolence that they were made out to be. And so you start to see that those weren't just decisions made, those rules weren't just there to cover up plot holes in time travel. They were there because the timekeepers have created a corrupt system and they're directly
Hmm.
targeting Loki. And so that made me like it a whole lot more because it took away my I feel like time travel is always kind of touchy because you have to make rules for it otherwise it can so easily break the
Yeah,
story that you're telling.
you always have to have rules, but it's so easy to criticize those rules. Like, it's always easy to kind of poke holes in it. I just have really appreciated and I'm excited for the rest of it because I don't know what direction it's going to go. I have literally no clue. Like even with Loki himself, like in the first episode, he does some kind of soul searching and figures out like who is Loki? Who am I? Why do I do what I do? Like so even Loki, I feel like I can't even depend on to do his standard Loki things. Like I'm just so excited because it's a mystery. So hopefully it continues to get even better.
Yeah, I really like that. Like it's cool that we're seeing this kind of we've taken Loki back to a point where he hasn't had the character development that he had in the other films because this is not
Hmm.
the same Loki that we know, which is really interesting and seeing him witness the other Loki's character growth secondhand is having a really interesting effect on the show and I feel like we're kind of back to Loki at his roots now, that he hasn't
Hmm.
gone through those experiences. We get to see kind of like a raw, uncut version of Loki. And I think that's exemplified like at the end of episode 2 when he steps through the portal with Lady Loki. I'll,
Yeah, this will be good.
I'll tell you, when he disappeared through that, I was like, no, don't do it.
Yeah, and see, even though he did that, I have no clue what his intentions are.
Yeah,
Absolutely no clue.
honestly, I don't think he knows either.
Yeah, I think this is going to be very good character development.
Yeah, and while we're on the topic of the MCU, I'm Black Widow comes out in just a couple weeks. It comes out July 9th, I believe, which is like next week or the week
Oh
after.
yeah.
So it's super soon. Um, I know it's hitting Disney Plus as the premiere access, which the premiere access to me has it's a little interesting because it's like $30 and you can watch it on Disney Plus like before it actually
Hmm.
arrives on Disney Plus, which I think for families is probably a pretty good deal because if you have it's what like 9-10 bucks for a movie ticket. So if you have a family of 4, you're saving money watching it on Disney Plus. But
Oh, that's true.
for me, where it's just me, the $30 entry fee for that is more than the movie ticket would be. So it's not that great for me. I will probably go watch it in theaters, especially because it's a Marvel movie. That's what I do. I'm gonna go see it in the theater. But we've had some reviews coming in already, and a majority of the ones I've seen on Twitter have been really positive. They've said that it is Scarlett Johansson's best performance of as Black Widow throughout the course of the MCU. They say it's got some awesome character moments in it. So it's not just super action focused like they according to the reviews, they're taking
Mm.
the time to sit down and allow the characters to have moments of growth, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that's really exciting for her, especially as she's been with the MCU for quite some time.
I've seen some people
From
calling who've some people who've seen it and given out the reviews. I've seen them asking for a trilogy for her.
Oh, all right. Man, that does have to be it. I'll certainly need to watch it. I don't know if I'll do the premiere access, but certainly be looking for an opportunity.
Maybe when you're here that weekend, we can go see it
True. Yeah.
because
Man.
that'll be cheaper than getting the premiere access. Because since it's just you and your wife, that's a little more. The $30 is more than it would be for the two of you to go to the movies. So
Yeah, a little bit more manageable.
so maybe we'll just go see it. But I'm really excited about it. And speaking of that weekend that you are coming back home, we are going to go to a Magic the Gathering pre-release.
Yeah, oh my gosh. This will be exciting for a
Yes.
lot of reasons.
For those of you that don't know Magic the Gathering, allow us a moment here to reveal just how nerdy we truly are. Which, if you are watching the show instead of listening to it, it's pretty evident as I've got Magic the Gathering cards right underneath my anime poster. Um, but Michael and I are pretty big nerds. So if that wasn't evident, let us just be plain about it. Magic the
We like to
Gathering,
really hammer in that nail.
yeah, yeah. This episode for sure is going to reveal it. If us talking about superheroes for 8 minutes wasn't enough to hammer that fact in, let us do it once and for all. Let there be no confusion. But Magic the Gathering is a trading card game, one of the OGs, premiered back in the 90s, I believe, early 90s. We have not been playing that long, but we've been playing for a
Ooh.
while, since high school. And a pre-release is where a new set of cards, they're going to release a whole chunk of new cards to play the game with. And the pre-release is an event that usually happens about a week before the set officially is sold in stores. And basically, you go in, you get like 6 booster packs of cards, you open them up, and then you make a small deck out of the cards that you opened to do a small little tournament against people in the store. This new set that is coming out, these new cards, are all Dungeons and Dragons themed, which, if you did not know, Michael and I are on another podcast together called Dungeon Stories, where we play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm about to start another podcast that is also Dungeons and Dragons. We like Dungeons and Dragons a lot, and we like Magic the
We
Gathering a
do.
lot. And so seeing those come together is going to be so much fun.
Yeah,
We are
it like
incredibly excited for it.
it perfectly coincides for when I'm going to be visiting Meridian.
Yeah,
So the stars have aligned in every way possible to allow Norin and I to go to a pre-release together.
yeah.
So
It just
we're
so
taking
happened.
advantage of that.
Yeah, it just so happened that the very weekend Michael had already had plans to come down that this event was happening. So just like old times, we're going to go to our friendly neighborhood local game store, our FLGS, and we are going to play some Magic the Gathering. And I think my
Yeah.
dad's going to come. So
Oh, nice. Man, it has been like 4 years since I've played Magic. So I know you get a chance to. I have not played Magic in
yeah.
a long time. So I am just excited in every way possible for this event.
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky. So I moved when I went to Pocatello for school and I was living in the dorms. I brought my Magic cards with me. And for the first 2 years of my schooling there, I did not really have anyone to play with, so they just kind of sat in my closet. My collection wasn't too big at that point. It's still not big compared to some people's, but it's a lot bigger now than it was. But that's because my third and final year at Idaho State University, I met. So I was an RA. I was a resident assistant, and there were two other RAs that, well, one of them played Magic, the other one just loved board games. He showed me this game called Smash Up, which is a card game where you take two uh, pre-existing decks and you get to pick two random ones and mix them together and play. And I was like, this is a lot like Magic the Gathering. If you like this game, Smash Up, you'll probably like Magic. So then at 4 a.m. I taught him how to play Magic, and he loved it so much. When we said goodbye that night, he went to his room and spent $200 on Magic cards to get himself into it. And so then me, the RA who already played, and this one who was new, the three of us formed a little play group, and we got super into it. I got more into it than I'd ever been before, and actually started like spending good chunks of money to build decks that were actually good and playable. And so I've been playing quite a bit since. Um, but yeah, we're very excited for this because it's D&D coming into Magic, and that's probably like the nerdiest thing I could possibly imagine, and that makes my little
Very
heart
much
so
so.
happy.
Yeah, I guess for those who aren't familiar with like playing card games, especially this style, what is like, at least to you, what are the most attractive elements of like a playing card game like this? Like what makes Magic one of your favorites? I'll say like first, I love playing like these trading card games, these deck building games because one, I get to build a deck, so I get to like stretch my brain a little bit. Like there are so many cards, there are hundreds of cards to choose from, and you pick the ones that you want to like work together, and you get to build something out of it. So there's like a lot of strategy. But I love another element I love about these games is since you're drawing from the deck, it's random. So you could have the best deck in the world, but we'll see if luck is on your side and whether you draw the right card. So that's what I love about it is just being able to like combine that strategy, like exercising my brain and a little bit of luck. Those are at least my favorite. But what are some of like your favorite elements to a playing card game?
Yeah, so especially for Magic, one of the things I appreciate a lot about it is like the aesthetic of it, I guess is what I would say, because I'm someone who loves fantasy, and I love that kind of limitless possibility that Magic, like as a concept, the ability to cast spells and those fantasy realms. I love the possibilities that they open up. So Magic, the card game, has a deep history of like lore and story set in the universe of the game, and I think it's so cool to see how they tie that into the cards and how that plays out. Like every expansion to the game has a story that accompanies it, and that story affects the cards that they make for the game. And I think it's really cool that they're able to do that. And I love what you said about like the strategy. It's a game where you get to pick your own strategy, and like anything can be viable. Any idea that you have, you can turn into a working strategy. And the game is cool because it doesn't have to be pay to win. Like you
Yeah,
can
certainly.
you can shill out a ton of money for some super expensive cards, and you can build a really good deck that way. Or you can use your brain and think about how the kind of less expensive, kind of looked over cards, how they work together, and you can form a good enough strategy that you can save yourself money and not spend a ton of money on the cards anyway. So I feel like it's the barrier to entry is not super high, because if you find a group of players who share your play style, who share your budget, then you can go in regardless of what your skill level with these kind of games are, or what your budget is. It's kind of open to everybody based on your preference.
Yeah, that's certainly like I love it. I mean, we played it in high school. We didn't have high budgets then, so it's just it's a very good thing being able to do that, especially with friends. And that's really, at the end of the day, it's all about friends. Like, that's why I love video games. One of the main reasons, being able to play with friends, Magic the Gathering. Love being able to play with friends. Just like all these different vehicles, these different hosts that allow you to be able to have fun with friends, especially with that creative element like you were talking about.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that has always made me really happy about the friendship that we have, Michael, is that we like to do things together, and and those things are all vehicles for us to enjoy our time together even more. We even if all we do is watch a movie or a TV show, we can take the time to explore our shared interest in that together and talk about it. So like everything that we do is like a vessel for our friendship, because we just like spending time together and being able to expand that time together into something that is exciting and fun, and something that makes our brains spin and work together, is something that's really exciting.
Yeah, man, that's a good way to put that.
Is there anything else that you've like watched or read recently, or anything that you know that's coming out
Um,
that has you pretty excited?
there is one thing, and that's Aragon. Have you heard the latest update from that?
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Michael,
All
are
right,
you
let's.
are you referring to Christopher Paolini's push to get it adapted for television?
Yeah, part of it has to do. Have you seen Disney's latest move in relation to that?
I don't think I've
I
seen
think I might have
Disney's
some news
response
for
to it.
you.
I think you have some news for me. I have not seen Disney's
Yeah.
response to it yet.
So this isn't. I don't think this is strictly like in response to like Christopher Paolini saying I want a TV show
Yeah, let's
specifically,
let's set the scene
but
first before we
yeah,
dive in.
let's.
So let's set the scene. Aragon, for those that don't know, The Inherited Cycle is a series of books written by Christopher Paolini. He published the first one when he was 17 or 18. He was young. Maybe he was 16. He was young, in that range. It is a fantasy novel about a boy who finds a dragon egg and then becomes a dragon rider, and then it turns into this expansive um, fantasy epic with war and romance, and it's just like one of the coolest things ever. It got a really bad movie adaptation. The movie is sucks. It's not very good, especially if you're a fan of the book. They just kind of totally disregarded the source material. But people have been really wanting a screen adaptation for it a while. So a couple of days ago on Twitter, Christopher Paolini said, "Look, if we're going to get this to happen, we need to form like a unified movement where we're all asking for the same thing. If we make a loud enough noise, we'll be seen." So he said the most logical thing that's going to happen is probably a Disney Plus TV show. So if we all on this day use this hashtag to ask for a Disney Plus TV show, then hopefully we'll create a big enough ruckus that something will happen. That is the last I ever heard of it. So, Michael, please deliver unto me this wonderful news.
Okay, so I want to double make sure um, that I am 100% correct, but I want to say that Disney has purchased the rights to Aragon. So that's that's the latest word.
Oh man, your audio cut out
Oh,
literally right as you just dropped that big news on me. You went completely silent.
okay. So apparently, might need to double check this, but apparently Disney has purchased the rights to Aragon, and I believe Aragon is now on Disney Plus.
The movie?
Like the 2006, yeah, supposedly. I haven't checked this myself.
Let me pull up the app right now. Um, that's awesome. That is a great. Uh, that's fantastic progress in this. Let me look at this right now. Okay, according to my app, it doesn't look like it's there yet, but it might be
Okay.
coming. Um, according to what
Yeah,
you've
it
read.
maybe it's something that's coming. This is just something that lately has kind of been blowing up. So this is something that we might need to do some follow up.
Yeah, we'll have to
But
follow this
just the
story.
fact that this is like Nora and I's one of our favorite fantasy books like ever growing up. Like this is what really got me into reading, especially like reading large books. Because I would read like Percy Jackson and stuff, I'd read things. But then Aragon comes along in these ginormous books, and I just loved every single aspect of it. So those would always be a top recommendation for fantasy books to get into from Norn and I, at least,
Oh
I
yeah,
would say.
100%. Always recommend it. One of my all-time favorite book series for sure. And speaking of Percy Jackson, you just mentioned, that is getting a Disney Plus show,
That's true.
and they've revealed like the logo for it. It's getting like Rick Riordan, who is the author of those books, is really keeping himself involved in the production of this show so that we don't end up with another fiasco like the two Percy Jackson movies that we got, because those were pretty bad.
Yeah, we've had some bad things. And, I wish everything could be perfect when they're made into a movie, but sometimes just not. TV shows are great. Hopefully, we can see some good things come of these.
Yeah, it's it's always really interesting to see like some things feel like they're made for the screen, right? Like Percy Jackson sounds
Yeah,
like it is destined to be a great something to visually perceive. It just seems made for it. The fight scenes are written super cinematically, but it's amazing to see how someone can take that and fumble it so badly. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense. Like I don't know if you saw the Artemis Fowl movie, um, but
yeah, I did watch that one.
that was pretty bad. That was a bad movie. But
That that was bad. I think from the first trailer we got, we were like, oh,
the books were
mm,
so exciting, and they described everything with so much flavor and so much flair that it just seemed like it would be wonderful to watch it come to life. And then it just makes you think like if the book was this good, like the story was this good in the book, why would you why would you change it?
yeah.
It's I've never understood that. Like you have the gold in your hand, why stray from it?
Yeah, I certainly understand especially a director, they probably want to make something of themselves. They like adding their creative input, but when the focus is on a literary work that is already there, go with it. Make the most of it. Make it something incredible. Like I think um Lord of the Rings, that's always an example I like to think of. So much text, so much they could have done with it, and I think they did an excellent job.
Oh yeah, easily one of the best adaptations of book to movie, especially because I feel like they made that story way more accessible for people. The books are kind of a task to read because especially now people have a little bit of time, a little bit of trouble jumping into kind of older literary works like that. Um, and even if that wasn't an issue, if like kind of the older English vernacular, if that wasn't a barrier for you, they're just dense. Tolkien explains a lot of stuff that doesn't like necessarily need to be explained. Um, he takes his sweet time on some things, and they can move a little slow at times. So I think the adaptation just made that story a lot more accessible for people. It did a great job of
Mhm.
opening that up to an audience that wouldn't have really been able to enjoy it in full otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of good that can come from taking something from one form of media to the other, and I'm just excited to see what they do.
What is your dream screen adaptation? If you could take one book that or one series of books that doesn't have a movie or TV show, and if you could give it a movie or TV show, what would you choose?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. There's a lot of series that I like. I mean, it probably, you might not be surprised, but I'd say like the Immortal Nicholas Flamel.
Hmm.
Like that's one of my favorites because for those of you who don't know, so it's the Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel, and it's a series. I think it has like 6 books, five
Five
books
or
in it.
six, yeah.
Yeah, it's not too long. The books are about medium length. Yeah, great read. It focuses a lot on magic and like history. And I love history. That's why it's definitely one of my favorites because it takes magic and combines history. So like one thing it does is it takes characters throughout history, like famous famous characters that we have just all throughout history. Nicholas Flamel being one of them. You know, you've got different people from like all different cultures, different legends, mythology, and they kind of take them together and make them real here in this modern world. So it's just such a cool combination of those, and I think that would be awesome to see kind of lit out over. I don't know if it'd be best in a movie or a TV series, but it would just be really cool to have that historical element.
Yeah, especially the way that like the magic is represented visually in that book. Every magician in the book has a unique aura about their magic. So everyone's magic is kind of unique to that magic user. And a lot of it, so it's like unique colors and unique scents. So like you can kind of tell that a magician has been there based on like the smell that lingers in the air.
Yeah,
So their magic is really unique and personalized. And so seeing each individual character's unique style of magic represented visually would be super cool. I know that like the bad guy was all like kind of was it like yellow or orange and like smelled like sulfur, so you could always tell that there was like some bad guy around. And then
yeah. There, and then I think what Nicholas Flamel was like mint,
hmm
I want to say, or something like that. Like I just thought it was so cool because that series again combined history with like a very unique concept, and I think that's something that Aragon and Nicholas Flamel share very well. Is they're both magic, but both brought a very unique viewpoint of how magic works and how those rules are. Um, so just having it be like so unique, like reading Nicholas Flamel, it had me think like, man, where would I stand in this conflict? You know, like just from that side, you know, whose side would I be on? And then things like, man, if I was in this world, like what would my aura be like? Like just
yeah,
really cool things like that to sort of contemplate and put yourself in the shoes of those people.
for if you haven't read the books, you totally should. They're written by Michael Scott, I believe is the author's name.
Yeah,
Um,
they are.
Very easy to remember if you're an Office fan. You cannot forget the author's name. It's Michael Scott. So definitely check him out if you haven't. But if you are having a hard time imagining what the magic in this series looks like, picture that one scene in Harry Potter. I think it's the sixth one where they're in the Ministry of Magic and Dumbledore is fighting Voldemort, and they're like there's like those big like that water sphere that one of them summons, and then they're setting it
Yeah,
at
I
the
think
other, and
that's
then they like
in
turn
the
it into sand. or glass or whatever, and they do it's that really big flashy fight scene between Dumbledore and Voldemort. Picture that. That's what the magic in Nicholas Flamel reminds me a lot of is that scene. It's just really big and loud and flashy and super visually
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, magic is all like used to do like big things. It's not like, you know, you cast a spell 10 times, not small things. They're all just very big and very dramatic in very cool, unique ways that like make sense too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely worth checking out, and Michael, I think you're so right. It would be fantastic adapted for screen.
Yeah. What about you? What do you think would be a good adaptation?
I had I had two that came to mind. Um, the first that came to mind was Ranger's Apprentice. Um,
Oh yeah. Oh, I love that series.
I absolutely love it, and I think like the way that the books are set up is they're kind of episodic. Like each
Yeah.
you can pick up most of the books in the series and read a chunk of them out of order. You won't necessarily need to have read the previous ones. Like they definitely help. You'll understand the characters and their development a lot more. But the stories aren't always directly. It's different than something like Harry Potter, where it's this overarching story that stretches across the whole books. Like they're kind of a little more self-contained, and so I think it would work really well for a TV show because you could break up the books into seasons, and these arcs could be easily contained within a series. And I think, like we've seen from something like Game of Thrones and The Witcher, how awesome this kind of medieval fantasy world can work on screen. It's kind of unique in the fact that it's almost like it's less fantasy than it is like historical fiction. You get like in like the
Hmm.
first book, there's like these weird magic creatures that are like dog people. But once you go beyond that, like there's not really magic in the world. There's one book where they meet a sorcerer, but spoilers, he's not actually sorcerer. He's like Wizard of Oz using light tricks and stuff. Um, so like there's not really magic in it. So it's just like kind of authentic, kind of medieval world, and it's really cool. They have a variety of different locations that they visit. The fight scenes are super awesome. They're really Some of them are really large in scale and would just look awesome on screen. So I think Ranger's Apprentice would be a fantastic adaptation.
Yeah. And that'd be a good question for everyone who's listening. What would you like to see adapted? What movies, TV shows, what would be your choosing
Yeah, let
if you
us
could? And
know.
tell us why. We want to know why.
The other one that I thought of is there's this series that I read in high school. I think it's called The Battle Mage, or at least that's the name of the first book. But essentially, what it is it's this it's the story of this. There's like a magic school where kids go and they learn to like summon demons basically, and so it's kind of like if you mixed Pokemon and Harry Potter because you can summon. There's like all sorts of different like classes of demons that you learn how to summon, and then you can like have them fight with you. It's really cool. It's really exciting. It's a little trilogy. It was pretty fun, and it it was just good. It would be really fun to kind of see on screen because I think the little creatures that they summon would be really cool to watch kind of evolve on screen.
Yeah, that would be cool. I don't think that's one I actually read myself, so maybe I'll need to add something to my list.
Yeah, I'll show you. It's pretty cool. They're really fun. Like I said, I read them in high school. I read them pretty quickly. There's like three of them, and then I think he released like a prequel as well that follows one of the uh, like teachers from the school. But it's really cool. It's a fun world. There's he teams up. It's like this kid. I think his name is like Nico or something, and he meets this dwarf at his school, and they team up. He's friends with this little dwarf kid. It's pretty fun stuff. He has this little like purple salamander thing. That's like his demon that he summons, and its name is Ignatius, I think, and it can like breathe fire, and it hangs out on his shoulder. It's
Hmm.
it's pretty cute, but I think it'd be really fun to see come to life on screen. But
Dang, not bad.
so another thing that I have played recently, Michael, is the game Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance.
True. Yeah, we were talking about this even before. So, best for last.
Yeah,
Tell me
it just
how.
came out. It just came out today, last night, I guess. But essentially, what it is it's kind of a hack and slash action brawler game. So you have these levels that you go through, and they have kind of like branching paths that have hidden treasures on them that you can find. But it's like these big swarms of enemies that you have to kind of fight through, and you can choose between different characters, and each one of them has like a unique fighting style, and you can team up and play co-op with people and kind of fight through. It's set in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. It's set in Icewind Dale, which is a really snowy, kind of dangerous, icy place. And Michael, we actually played a little bit of the official Dungeons and Dragons campaign, Icewind
Yeah,
Dale:
we
Rime of the
did.
Frost Maidens. So it was kind of cool to see those locations from that game that we had played. It's cool to see them kind of realized in this game. But it's pretty cool. So I played by myself last night at like midnight when it came out. Um, I want to experience it again. I want to try the co-op for it, but the game itself was pretty cool. Visually, it looks really good. It follows some of the most famous D&D characters. It's like Dritz Do'Urden and his crew. So there's really popular book series, which another thing that would be cool to see adapted into a
Oh yeah,
series
that'd
would
be
be the
neat.
Dritz novels. But so it follows the Dritz novels, those characters, and it's set in Icewind Dale, and you get to choose one of Dritz's party to play as, and go around and beat up D&D monsters like goblins and giants and beholders and dragons, and you just get to fight through, and it's pretty cool. It's visually it's really awesome. It's cool to see these classic D&D locations and monsters represented visually and like moving around on your screen. Um, the actual gameplay of it, like I'm not really that big a fan. Like action brawlers, like hack and slash, are not usually my go-to games. I tried it out mainly because of the D&D branding on it. Um,
Hmm.
but as far as that style of games goes, it's pretty fun. Um, it was day one. I think the it was almost a little hard. Like I think it was kind of designed for you to play with other people. So playing by myself in this
Mm.
style of game that I don't usually play, I was kind of getting my butt kicked a little bit. And so
It's a little bit unique of a play style.
yeah, but it was fun. It was good. I My favorite part about it was the D&D experience that they brought into it. It's a lot different from other D&D branded games. Like most of the times I think of stuff like the Baldur's Gate series where it's kind of turn-based party RPGs. This is
Yeah.
like the opposite of that. It is the furthest thing from turn-based because it's super fast-paced and it's about like real-time combat. How quick can you dodge in and out? Its focus is kind of less on the strategy and more on the reflexes. So it was a lot
Hmm.
different from the other D&D games I played, which was kind of refreshing. It's cool to take that the D&D like brand and bring it in a different direction. So hopefully you can attract people who maybe aren't fans of the slower turn-based games.
Yeah, it's true. It's nice being able to just kind of diversify because there's something for everyone. That's what's kind of nice with like D&D branching out in this way. Like over this summer, like they're going to be in Magic the Gathering. They have video games. There are board games centered around D&D. Like there are all sorts of different ways that you can kind of be involved in this franchise, and I think it's really cool. Kind of goes back to that, like, barriers of entry. I recently saw someone on a Reddit thread, and they're like, hey, if you are trying to get someone into D&D, or you're trying to get into D&D, try some of these other things. See what it is, see what you like, kind of get those creative minds flowing, and you might really like it, you might really enjoy it.
Yeah, I think nowadays D&D is doing so much more to be accessible to people. And I think that's really smart because one of the things that we love most about D&D is I think we've talked about it on the show before is just kind of how freeing it is. Like how you
Hmm.
can use it to be someone that you aren't. You can use it to try new things and to go on these adventures that you never could with your friends. It's a way to bring people together and get your brains working in a fun and exciting way. And it's a way to really let you explore, like, not just fantasy realms and things like that, but a way to explore kind of yourself too, because you can be someone that you're not, and you can see how those traits kind of work. You can use them to explore different facets of yourself and really kind of flesh them out. And so it's like, as much as it's fun to play the game, it also, I think, can be really cathartic and really helpful to you as a person as well. And so the more people that we can open up that opportunity to, the better, I think.
Mm-hmm. Man, if we don't convert some people to play D&D through all of our episodes talking about it, I swear, because I mean, it's just incredible. Like, just such a good pursuit. Again, it so very much focuses on friends. Like, a group of people working together is really what it completely focuses around. You know, thinking together, planning things out together, strategizing, role playing, living a way that you'd like to. Like, it's just incredible everything that you can truly accomplish with it.
And like we've said about lowering the barriers of entry, the barriers of entry for getting into D&D have never been lower. Like, if you are looking at the lineup of books that they have, like if you go to your local game store and you see this shelf of books, and each of them, cost money, and you're looking at them and you're like, well, I can't possibly afford to play D&D. You can play D&D for free because they have the basic rules online for free. You can download those, and then you can use digital dice in Google. If you just Google, like, roll a d4, it'll bring up this box where you can roll all the RPG dice. So you can get the rules of the game for free and dice online without needing to buy dice. You can play D&D totally for free. Or if your barrier of entry is, well, I only see people playing D&D in groups. I don't have 5 friends who are interested in playing. They have released rules that allow you to play with just one DM and one player. So you only need one other person interested in playing to be able to play the game, because they have provided options for that to be a thing in some of their most recent starter sets, where you can play a game with just a DM and yourself, or maybe you as the DM and just one player if you can only find one other person willing to try it. The barriers have never been lower. You can play for free. You can play with just one other person. And if you don't even have one other person, you can play Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance, or you can play Baldur's Gate 3, and you can get the D&D experience that way, and through forums on Reddit or Roll20.net. You can find people that way looking for games on Facebook groups or stuff like that, and connect with them over the internet to play. So literally, just play D&D. Just give it a shot, because you'll like it. Because you can do anything that you want to do. If
we'll
you don't
let you
think
join one of our campaigns.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you don't think D&D sounds like fun, I don't get it, because you can do anything you want. So you can have whatever fun you want to have in the game, because you could do anything. So anything that you think sounds like fun, you can make happen. So just play D&D.
And wrap up.
Yeah, and I think that's what we've got to end on. That felt like such a good natural stopping point for us for this episode. Everyone, please play Dungeons and Dragons, and let us know. And if you need assistance getting into it, reach out. Reach out to Goodland. Reach out to Dungeon Stories. Reach out to us individually. Any of the above. If you are interested in D&D, just talk to us and we will help you, because we want people to experience
interested in anything, books, video games, D&D. These are all things Norin and I have certified as good.
Certified good.
Excellent. 4 thumbs up.
All right, everyone. Well, I think that I have ranted at you long enough about Dungeons and Dragons. I'll let you off the hook now. I'll let you go now. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out the show with us. We have a ton of fun doing this for you. So we're glad that we have people asking us if we take a week off. I'm glad that we have people asking us, hey, where's this week's episode? That makes us feel really good. So thank you to those of you who are concerned about us when we miss an episode. We've just been a little busy. Hopefully, now that things are starting to calm down, we can get back to something a little more consistent. But we really appreciate you sticking with us and being concerned about our absence. Rest assured, Goodland is still here. We're not gone. We really appreciate you tuning in. If you are on YouTube, you know the deal. Like, subscribe, comment, but for sure comment. Let us know what book you want to see adapted for the screen. Let us know what your dream adaptation is, or if there's anything that you was adapted that you wanted to be redone better. That works too. That also fits the assignment. If you're on iTunes, again, 5-star ratings really help us, and then of course just word of mouth advertising. Just let people know. And then if you get someone new to listen, we'll certify you good. That's just how it works. If you come to us and say, hey, I showed the show to this person, brand new listener, boom, you've earned it, certified good. So look forward to that. With that, we want to thank at Kuzco Sucks, KUZCOSUX on Twitter. Parker is our homie, and he makes awesome tunes. He does our intro. We love him, and we love his music, so please check him out. He's got some new stuff on the way, some brand new, like he's got an EP coming out, so stay tuned for that. He's going to put it up on Spotify and all that. And then Parker's band, Satisfactory, has hit the studio again recently. So stay tuned for stuff from Satisfactory as well.
Right.
They'll be coming back, and it is a long-awaited return. I'm so glad that they're going to be back in action again. So definitely check out Parker and his work. Anything else, Michael? Anything to add?
I think that's good. Man, some good things to look forward to. All across the board.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. Stay tuned. If there's anything that you would certify good, let us know, and maybe we'll talk about it. But with that, everyone, this has been Goodland, and I'm glad you're alive.